I haven't seen that one yet, Tim. Roger,
I'm supposed to say, and we're live, and then Christelle kind of sabotaged me on this.
And we're live, but that jumped out at me. Have you been doing that while I was away, Tim?
Yes, I have. Christelle was away on a second honeymoon. It's like getting really greedy. So they got married in San Diego, and they had another honeymoon in Scotland, actually, probably not far from where our guest today, Roger's from. So Roger Edwards is a fantastic guest marketing guru, author. You can hold up your book now. And yeah.
Oh, for goodness sake, don't call me a guru. I really don't like that word guru. I mean, I'm thinking back to the 1980s, maybe the early 1990s. There was an advert for Thai Fu tea, and it was the Thai Fu gnu. It was a cartoon of a sort of prairie animal. And every time somebody calls me a guru, I just think of the Thai Fu gnu.
What would you? Wow. Okay. Well, this comes to the question, because we always have to do the "Who are you? Who the hell are you? And why should we care?" question. So, if you're not a marketing guru, what would you describe yourself as?
Well, I am a marketing person, a marketing bloke. I've been doing marketing pretty much my entire career. I even did a marketing degree at university a long time ago. But I suppose I've been in and out of different industries. I spend a lot of time in financial services, and as you know, financial services is a very, very heavily regulated industry. It's also an industry which is known for its complexity, known for its bloat, and known for its scandals as well, I guess. So I sort of developed a fascination for simplicity and keeping what I call the gobbledygook and the bloat at bay quite early in my career, and especially in the financial services industry, it almost turned into a sort of career-long fight against that sort of bureaucracy and complexity. So yeah, I quite cheekily call myself a marketing simplifier. And that's the title you've chosen to display on the screen, Tim.
Yeah.
And I do use that on my LinkedIn profile. But I guess ultimately, the two things that I'm doing at the moment are marketing consultancy and marketing speaking. I gave up big corporate. It'll be 10 years ago this year, actually. I gave up big corporate and became a consultant. And I have to say, getting out of big corporate and becoming my own boss it was probably one of the best things that I ever did.
Okay, I have a lot to ask you. You got your degree in marketing, then you worked as a marketer for a big company, and now you do this on your own, and you held up a book. All these things I want to ask you about. How has marketing developed over the years since your degree? Because I imagine it's changed quite a bit. And how have you adapted your marketing style, what you teach people from that point?
That's a really good question. I mean, to be perfectly honest, the fundamentals of marketing haven't changed at all over the 2 or 3 decades that I've been doing it, and the previous decades, and no doubt the basic principles of marketing will stay the same going forward. It's a lot of the technology that surrounds it and how we deliver marketing to the world that's changed. And a lot of people listening to this might disagree with me and say, no, Roger, you're getting to the end of your career now. You don't really know what you're talking about. Technology is the way things are going. But marketing is really all about identifying a group of people, a specific group of people that have a specific issue or problem, working out what sort of product or service there is that you can build that will solve that issue or problem, and then selling it to them and communicating it to them in an engaging way that will make them want to buy it. Now, that's the basic principles of marketing. You know, when I started, the communication element of it was basically TV ads if you could afford them, which a lot of people couldn't even back then, and putting adverts into newspapers, magazines, and on billboards outside railway stations. Obviously now, in the digital age, we've got much more, many more platforms to communicate. We've got social media, we've got email, we've got websites, we've got digital technology all around us. You know, you could still say billboards if you like, but a lot of the billboards are actually digital these days. Yes, we still have TV advertising, and a lot of people say TV advertising is dead, but you only need to look at the interval during the Super Bowl to know that it isn't dead as long as you've got ridiculously high budgets. So I always say that the basic principles of marketing have stayed exactly the same. It's just that the technology that supports it that has changed massively over the last couple of decades that I've been involved in it.
Mark Orr commented, and he said, marketing fundamentals will never change as they are entrenched in human psychology, and that doesn't really change.
Absolutely right. Mark Orr lives just down the road from me. He lives down the road in Newcastle. Good to see you, Mark. Thanks for the comment. I think one of the issues that I have, and it's a hobby horse that I do get on, and I've said this on stage at conferences, so I'm more than happy to say it again, is that digital technology, video, apps, social media, all of that has been an absolute boon for smaller businesses and has helped smaller businesses to communicate better and more easily than they've ever been able to do before. You know, when I started off doing marketing, to communicate with customers, you'd have to spend a lot of money, and a lot of businesses didn't have a lot of money to spend. Digital has given us the ability to communicate effectively and cost effectively. However, I believe that what has happened over the last decade, especially as digital has become most prominent, is that marketing has become very tactical. You know, I go to conferences, and Tim, I know I've seen you at a lot of these conferences. A lot of conference topics are very tactical. So how to use TikTok, how to use Instagram stories, how to use Twitter, how to use email lists, how to use SEO. Those are all tactics, okay? And they're important tactics, and they help communicate the message. But before you do any of that, you've got to have that insight into what the customer need is. You've got to understand that target customer. You've got to build the product or the service and work out what its unique selling features are, if you want to use that sort of language, what the position is, how you compare to your competitors. And you need to have all of that in addition to some goals. You know, is this all about revenue? Is this all about numbers of eyes on screens or bums on seats or whatever it is? And is it about market share? Is it about profit margin, gross profit, all of that? And I never hear any of that stuff anymore. I never hear about research or positioning or even product development. Some people thought product development has nothing to do with marketing. What? Of course it is. You know, it's part of the marketing mix. And I think that I have been frustrated over the last few years that digital marketing has made us talk about tactics all the time. That said, I genuinely think probably for the first time over the last, I don't know, a year to 18 months, people have been starting to talk about research again, and customer focus and segmentation, positioning, and all of that stuff. So maybe we have turned the corner, and eventually we'll get back to what could be a really ideal world where we do all the strategic stuff and we match that up with all the tactical stuff as well. And that's going to have to work really well.
Tim, I have a really quick question to back this up, because the research I want to key in on. This goes along with, I told you I'd ask you about the organization I work for, as well as other people online. We're learning how to do Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the things that we can put on. We're learning how to do that. But you mentioned research is very important, so we hit our target audience. How do we do that? Where do we start with the research?
I think that the research always starts with the sort of people that you want to target, and you just need to get yourself into a position where you can ask those people questions about their lives and try to find out from them what their pain points are and what their needs are. Maybe this is a bit of an off the wall example, but we have a program here in the United Kingdom. I know there was a version in the United States at one point. It's called The Apprentice, and it's hosted by Lord Sugar. And I really shouldn't watch this program because it really annoys me a lot of the time, because each year it becomes more and more of a parody of itself. But every year they will have a couple of marketing tasks, and Lord Sugar will come along and he'll say something like, I want you to create a product, and this is going to be a lunchbox for children between the ages of 6 and 8. And you've got all these apprentice candidates who are all in their 20s and 30s. So they are not the target audience for lunchboxes. And yet they go and put them in a brainstorming room and they sit there and say, oh, well, it needs to be crocodile shaped, or it needs to be aeroplane shaped, or it needs to be space shuttle shaped, or it needs to be green, it needs to be blue, blah, blah, blah. The fact is they have absolutely no clue how to approach a product that will appeal to a 6 to 8 year old. But the flaw in the program is it doesn't allow them to talk to that customer segment. So they always screw the task up completely, totally hopeless. Admittedly, later on in the program, they will then be given the ability to promote the product that they have come up with to that target audience, most of which say this is rubbish, wouldn't touch it, don't like it, blah, blah, blah. And then the program doesn't allow them to change it as a result of that feedback. So they fail twice. And to me, that's a great lesson. You know, if somebody says to you, go away and build a product for 6 to 8 year olds, the first thing you do is you get a load of 6 to 8 year olds in a room and you start asking them questions about what they want from their lunchbox. And once you've got those insights, then you go away, you build a product or a service or whatever it is, and then you take it back to them and say, here's what we've built, what do you think? And they may say, that's great, I'll have that. Or they may say, no, wrong color or wrong shape or whatever, and you refine it. Once you've done all of that, then you've got something you can start advertising, and you could use TikTok or Instagram or whatever it might be to promote that. But there's quite a lot of processes you've got to go through before you've got something you can start talking about.
Yeah. I mean, how much difference would you say it makes between a product that is developed in that way, so like they actually talk to the people who are the audience, and what is true a lot of the time, and I've done this a few times, is where you create a product and then you try and think, how do I market this? How much difference do you think that actually makes? I would suspect it makes the whole marketing and selling stuff down the line about immeasurably easier.
I think that if you don't do all the stuff in advance, the research, the proper segmentation and the targeting, and especially the positioning, you know, what are the messages? Why does this stand out? How does it compare to everybody else? Then you are setting yourself up for failure. Undoubtedly, you will make some sales, but you will not be as successful as you could be if you did the strategy stuff first. I mean, I do remember going back to financial services. One of the big problems that financial services companies have, and a lot of them still have, is that they have computer systems which are just archaic. You know, they're built on COBOL and Pascal and all of those languages from the 70s and 80s. And actually developing a product when I started out could take up to 18 months. So you absolutely had to get the product right before you took it to the market, because if you cocked it up, then it would take you 18 months to change it. I guess nowadays you do probably have the luxury, as if you do get it wrong, it's probably easy to make changes. And you could argue, well, actually, I'm launching a minimum viable product, I guess, and we'll get feedback as we go, and we'll make a tweak if people don't like one thing, or we'll boost it if people like another. But I still think it would be better if you got it as clear to being right as possible before you start talking about it.
Yeah. This reminded me too of the example you gave where they were creating a lunchbox for children. But how do we get it in front of the people and find the right people who are actually going to spend the money to purchase the product? And that's the problem that I have where I work. We know that our product is for children, but we need to get it in front of the people who need to hear about it, who will bring it to their children.
Yeah, I mean, it's often multi-layered, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And again, you know, before digital, we'd have to work out which magazines were the parents of children reading, you know, so Good Parent or whatever it might be, which newspapers are our target market reading, You know, do we put adverts in the Daily Mail or the Sun or the Telegraph or whatever the US equivalent is? Nowadays, I guess, because we've got access to social media and we've got access to groups on all different sorts of websites, if you know who your target audience is, so you'll be going after, I mean, if you're doing it quite locally, you know, you want to target parents in a certain state in the US, or you want to target parents in a certain city in the UK, then you're going to find the websites and the groups and the online platforms where those people are hanging out, and start targeting your messages and targeting your activity at that particular audience, as opposed to just firing it out everywhere. So it's really just, again, who's the target market, and let's get our communications aligned to them. And of course, I suppose I made a rod for my own back using the lunchbox example there, but it's probably is a good example, because the kids ultimately aren't the one who are going to buy it. But what you do want is to try and create that, Mum, I've just seen this great spaceship-shaped lunchbox. I need you to buy me this. Or alternatively, you need to have the messages on a platform where the parents are going to think, oh, do you know what? I'm sure little Johnny would like that spaceship-shaped lunchbox. We'll buy it him for Christmas.
Yeah, we have another comment from Mark Hall, actually. We need to rehumanize the business communication to help break through the sea of noise on the social platforms, which I think is very true. So I remember you giving, and this is the funny thing, I remember you giving this great speech where you mentioned John the Wineman.
Ah, yes, John the Wineman.
But the irony is that I can't actually remember what the point was you were making at the end of it. Well, I'll let you tell the story briefly of John the Wineman without obviously doing an hour-long speech.
Yeah, no, the speech I was giving, it was at the Upreneur Summit in 2018, and my topic was that marketing was broken, and that we were being too aggressive in our marketing, we were being too complicated in our messaging, and we were being too intrusive, and we were just getting on everybody's nerves, and you know, pop-ups here, TV adverts that interrupt the flow, that sort of thing. And I told this story about John the Wineman just after I'd moved to Edinburgh. I was going to work one day, and my wife said to me, oh, by the way, there's this wine guy coming around tonight. And I said, what wine guy? What's this? And she says, oh, I answered this ad in the newspaper. This guy's going to come round. We're going to sample some wine, and we get a free set of wine glasses to go with it. And my immediate reaction was, oh, no, you've invited a salesman into our house. And this guy is going to just bamboozle us with all this wine jargon, and it's going to be sell, sell, sell. So I got myself all wound up all through the day thinking, this is just, I just don't want this. I just don't want this. And when this guy arrived, the door opened, and there he was. He was actually quite a great big guy, and he had these two huge cooling boxes full of wine stood on the doorstep. He says, hello, I'm John the Wineman. And of course I said, okay, come in, but I'd like to just warn you, John, I don't like hard selling. And he said, all we're going to do tonight, Mr. Edwards, is I'm going to give you some wine to taste, and then I'm going to answer any questions you've got about it. And do you want to know what happens next? I bought 36 bottles of wine from him. Because he didn't sell it to us. He let us taste it. And that led to a 2-decade relationship with this guy. He used to come around pretty much every quarter, and we always bought lots of wine from him. And it was never pressure. It was all about answering questions about, well, the grape, what's the grape in this? What does the taste of this come to? And just to finish off, again, he eventually retired, and as a cost-cutting measure, they put us all onto a sort of telesales footing. We then started getting these phone calls at all stupid sorts of hours from the same company saying, do you want to buy this Merlot? Do you want to buy this Chardonnay? And I said, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to John the Wineman. He's not there. And in the end, I just told them to stop phoning. And the whole point was, marketing shouldn't be annoying. It shouldn't be intrusive. It should be a two-way conversation about something that you both like. And John the Wineman epitomized that for me.
Okay. I want to go back to your book, but I see cats around. I see a cat. I think I see a cat book. I see a cat picture. I see another cat picture. When you held up your book, it starts with the word cat. Can you hold it up? Hold it
He's
up
very
again.
much a dog man, clearly.
Cat, Matt, and Marketing Plans. Your book. Tell us about this.
Okay. Cats, Mats and Marketing Plans is a book about how to put together a simple marketing strategy. So a lot of the things we've already talked about, doing research, doing customer positioning, coming up with an idea, it's all in that book. But it's also another strand is this whole idea of keeping things simple. So not using complicated language, not having complicated products, not having complicated processes. In fact, I do believe, and it says this in the book, if you see a company that uses complicated language, that is usually a proxy for everything else. So if their language is complicated, it's likely their product is as well, and it's likely their processes as well. So if you can start with simple language, it often translates into simple everything else. And the whole cats and mats thing was another speech I gave at the first conference I think I met Tim at, where I start off by saying to the people in the audience, I bet you I can teach you a marketing strap line instantly that you can shout back at me. And the strap line is, your cat sat on our mat. So you imagine that I am a mat manufacturer for cats to sit on. And I do this sort of theatrical thing where I say, right, I count you down, 3, 2, 1. And the whole audience then shouts out, our cat sat on your mat. So that's dead easy. So then I change it slightly and said, okay, let's make it a passive sentence. So the sentence then becomes, our mat was sat on by your cat. And say it back to me, 3, 2, 1. Now they usually get it pretty quickly, but there's maybe a little hesitation because they've had to reverse it in their head, and then I add more complexity onto it, like our mat was sat on by your cat whilst eating a bowl of fishy shaped munchies. 3, 2, 1, and every time we add a bit more until eventually you've just got this whole page of utter gobbledygook and jargon. And I keep saying 3, 2, 1, come on, say it back to me. And of course they can't. So the idea is if you start with something simple, that's what people are going to understand. That's what people are going to be able to send back to you. Whereas if you get complicated, nobody's going to know what you say. And you can work that both ways. You can say to a company, here's what you've got at the moment. That's gobbledygook. So you've got to turn that gobbledygook into your cat sat on our mat. And that example is effectively permeates through the book. Plus, it also gives me the opportunity to have that nice cat-shaped motif on the cover, I guess.
I know the cover is awesome. Where can we find your book? Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon. Yes, it's available on Amazon as a paperback, as a hardback, and of course as a Kindle edition.
Woohoo. So. If you've ever watched any of the previous shows, I know nobody does generally, but the long-running sort of joke stroke theme is that I often ask people that I made this joke years ago that Christelle was going to start a llama farm.
Right.
And then I've asked guests to apply their skills to help her do this llama farm. So I'm not going to say the usual thing like Christelle's just started a llama farm. Let's go way back right at the beginning. Christelle comes to you and says, I really want to do something with llamas in the San Diego area. Might be a farm. It might be some sort of taking the fur. What would be your advice to her in terms of creating a llama-based product in the San Diego area from a marketing perspective?
Well, again, the usual thing would be is to find out what people think about llamas. Yeah. And a lot of people might have preconceptions that llamas spit a lot and that they're quite aggressive. Yeah. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but you might start with that fact and then start to build this proposition. Well, actually, llamas are a great way of relaxing. You could take a llama for a walk. We've got these beautiful walking trails through the sand dunes behind Mission Beach. So you come off the big the Giant Dipper, and then you take this llama for a walk around the sand dunes, and it's nice and fluffy and probably very warm as well in the sun. But it's a nice way to relax. It's a different way, a different day out. Or we have actually, funnily enough, down the road we actually do have an alpaca farm, and alpacas are quite similar to llamas, aren't they? I don't know what the difference is. I think alpacas are a bit fluffier. That's all I can gather. Maybe they don't spit as much, but I think that people love animals, and we're all talking about our mental health and our, how to keep calm these days. And I think that we know that if you create a connection with animals, that is a good way to look after your mental health. And I think that whilst people will take dogs for a walk and cats for a walk, sometimes they can't commit to a pet full time. Take our llama for a walk for an hour a week, an hour a month. You can get to know your own llama. It's got a name, Rocky the llama. You'll get a signed certificate every time, and every six visits you'll get to go behind the scenes and wash the llama. I don't know. I'm starting to ramble now, but
you're starting to do the old well, this could be a great product. How would you work out whether that was a good product or whether you should just start a normal llama farm? Like this, I'm trying to get into this research element.
Yeah, and again, I suppose ultimately you're going to have an idea that you want to. So if it's just a llama farm that you're just breeding llamas and then selling them to people who want to have llamas of their own, then that's obviously a completely different message. That if you wanted to create some sort of centre where people come along to take llamas for a walk or to interact with llamas, like a llama petting zoo or a llama walking thing, or the other sort of mental health thing. So again, it's really just asking people the questions as to what they feel they would like out of that interaction, and then coming up with an offer. And your offer is going to be, this is what it does, this is how much it costs, and this is how it compares to the alpaca farm down the road, or the San Diego Zoo as an alternative. And once you know what your offer is, then you start creating messages around that. So, take a llama for a walk. These are the health benefits, or we're the best breeder of llamas in California because 1, 2, 3, 4. So I guess the first stage is do your research and come up with an offer. And once you've got your offer, that's when your messages start bouncing off that.
I feel like, James said Christelle's calming llamas. So here we go.
Christelle's.
So here's what I gathered from this. Roger had already done the research, which is why he came up with the mental health application. And
he's stolen your idea that he's going to do.
Shall I just tell you a little story about a llama? Just up the road from me, in just outside Edinburgh, there's a place called East Links Farm, and it's actually it's a very big petting zoo. So you take your children along, and there are baby animals that they can have a look at, baby rabbits, baby sheep, that sort of thing. There's actually a train that goes around the outside, an old sort of steam train type thing. There's go-karts, there's a lake with ducks and geese and stuff on it. Now we took our son along to this petting zoo once, and they did have llamas in the field. And right at the back, and we went and we were stood watching this llama, and all of a sudden my son sort of screams at the top of his voice and points at this llama and says, "That llama's got a llama coming out of its bum." And we had a look at this llama, and lo and behold, yes, there was this llama, little baby llama's head sticking out of the back of this female. And literally within 30 seconds, we witnessed the birth of a llama. And I guess the thing that astonished not just our son, but us as well, was this thing was up and around and running around within about, 10 minutes. It was really quite remarkable.
This is okay. So we have the best answers about llamas and alpacas. And Tim, I hope someday you gather all of this and we really get a llama farm, because we can't fail at this point.
Well, I'm going to make a commitment to you now that what I do a vlog occasionally as well, and I'm always looking for places to go. So there is a llama farm just up the road where they do these walking trips. So I'm going to go to that llama farm this summer and do a vlog about that llama farm. And I will make sure that Oh No, Not Another Live Show gets mentioned in that vlog.
This is brilliant. You mentioned the zoo. You can't go to the zoo and pet animals. I mean, this is quite brilliant, and it's cost effective. So here we go.
Probably some sort of US health and safety regulations about
That's true.
Animal petting or something.
Yeah, it is only bunny rabbits and guinea pigs and stuff like that. They haven't got any snakes or wild dogs or anything like that.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, I'm sure some people want pet snakes, but
no. Roger, where can we find you online? Where can our friends who are watching find you online and find out how to hire you as their marketing simplifier?
The marketing guru. Probably there's two places that I do tend to hang out most. Twitter, it's Roger_Edwards. Although God knows where Twitter's going these days, so maybe that won't be around for much longer. My website is rogeredwards.co.uk. That's relatively easy to understand. Or I'm on LinkedIn. So, look me up on LinkedIn, Twitter, or look at the website.
This is you hit the exact subject I think companies most need and are most interested in. It's that research element of it. So thank you so much for chatting with us about this specifically. It was brilliant. Thank you.
No, been an absolute pleasure to see you again, Tim, and to meet you, Christelle. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and don't steal our llama farm idea.
I thought it was his idea, Tim.
It's been great to have you on the show, and I'm going to actually work out to play the outro now. So thanks for everybody watching.
Thank you very much. Cheers. See you later.
This is what God requires.